Some physical points. Historically, again, just something that I came over. Again, I didn't know this, but I guess Euler was the one that actually formalized force equals mass times acceleration, and Einstein just spoke in the proportionalities. Which again, two things. One, it shows you going from words to equations. That's what's happened. It's historically 100% of the time. Somebody has intuition. That intuition is articulated, and the closer you are to fundamental ontology, the more applicability it has. So Newton spoke in, and that's another thing on a personal level. Is like historically, people have pieced together physical things. I do every bit of it, like literally every corner of everything. That's the only way you can generate a complete proof, is having the intuition come from a single individual. But just some more proportionalities. Again, like I said, none of these things that I'm doing takes away from anything that's been done before, but it adds to it and it extends the application. And I'm just showing you the proofing. All of these things are showing you the proofing. The evidence is already the evidence, right? You don't break the laws of physics, you just misunderstand them. And so it's like you can't do something that's not possible to be done. And your entire life is trying to figure out how to articulate and describe things properly. But some more proportionalities. Silence is proportional to stillness. The more still an object is, the less sound it can produce. So the evidence is silence. The state of the system is stillness. And those are the words you use to describe those physical states. Compression is the opposite of extension. Right? You extend a spring, you compress a spring. You extend your energy, you compress your energy. Tension loads energy, work expends energy. Right? You go to sleep, you wind up your little dancing Christmas doll, you wind up your spring, then you unwind your spring. You sleep, you unwind up your energy, then you go work out and bitch at a conference for 3 hours and learn nothing and collect your money, you unwind after that. And I'm gonna go unwind, it's been a long day. But again, extension, clearly it's literally built on the word tension. And so again, you have all of these fundamental ontological words that are related to tension, that are related to rhythm, that are related to vibration. And it's just like, how could you look at theoretical physics and be like, there's been any progress in 60 years? You're delusional. I mean, literally you watch one of these things and the intuition that you will gather from it, literally hearing me speak in fundamental ontology will cause you shock. Hence the existence of ontological shock, which is a terminology that didn't exist before people started reading these words, like seeing my work, which is just insane. But a double negative will cancel out. In the same way you multiply two negative numbers, we define sorality. We're trying to find the definition now of insorality, and then subsequently insensorality, because the double negatives will cancel out to a positive definition, the correct definition, but it's easier to solve in that form. The same exact way you map an equation problem to some other simpler context and you can solve it. But why do people produce double negatives just in natural conversation? Go listen to someone who's in a heated argument. And they'll get mad, they'll get angry, they'll get incensed. And so this is another big connection I want to make, is insensorality, right? We have a form of that logic family already used. If somebody gets really irate or really angry, they will get incensed. And so this is another word where it's like, if you Google it, it's not even there. I don't think so. I haven't proven that. I haven't literally just Google it. I-N-S-E-N-S-E, insense. Right? Clearly we have senses, and so with insense. We have insensitivity, right? If you're insensitive to somebody, you might incense them. So it's directly logically consistent in our natural definitions. And so if you get really irate or really angry, if somebody's insensitive and you provoke them, they're going to get incensed. They're going to get angry. They're going to get very angry, very mad, irate. And so we've connected that. So then that's where we're going to go with the prefix sensorality, in sense. And so I'll try to put most of this on the screen, but this sounds like a lot of editing, and I don't like to do the editing. If you actually listen to any of this stuff, I mean, this is tiptoeing around logical things. You have to be present, so it may or may not be on the screen is my point. But people produce double negatives in argumentation. It's very apparent. They'll be trying to make this gotcha point or this zinger or something, and then you'll feel them playing with the logic and dancing around and trying not to sound like a dumbass. but in doing so, they'll form double negatives and sound stupid. And you can see this on Reddit. If you read a news headline and you get like brain cancer trying to process the logic, like what did I just read? It's because people are mixing up double negatives on a personal level. And so why are those produced? It's just an intuitive attenuation and an intuitive pairing, locking to how language actually works, feeling how it's like the logic is wrong when you're doing a double negative, but still trying to get your point across because you're angry. But again, it's an improper use of the empirical value function. Again, you establish the existence of something, and then you say not that, which is apparent in every language and needs really no explanation. So we've covered that. The big one was connecting insense and infuriate to insensitivity, which is a word people know, insensitive, to incense, to make very angry, is a word that people naturally use today. And again, not like in an obscure context. Like again, if you're angry, you're not sitting there thinking about the words you learned in English class. You're just saying the things that most concisely transmit your meaning. Big is bigger than smaller is small, meaning the intuition and how small something can be, how small you can measure something, the overall magnitude of that size is way smaller, and I mean way infinitely way smaller than how bigger is. Meaning when you try to scale, imagine things intuitively on the largest scales, that magnitude is way larger than how small something is on the smallest of scales. And so I can't really say anything more than that. Increasing more than 100% is possible. Decreasing more than 100% is impossible. And we talked about how you construct and then you deconstruct. You build, then you reduce. You expand and then you contract. But you live and then you die. But you can't erase your impact totally. And so again, the same way I have $1, I can go make $10. I've increased, 900% or 1,000% totally. But I can't, if I lose my dollar, I've only lost 100%. I could take out debt. I know money's a bad thing, but fundamentally, physically, you can divide something. We have our object and we divide it. We can't get all the way to zero, but there's no reason we can't add more things to it. Again, then we get to the universal, is how the bounds of the actual physical universe, but those are unknowable, right? We are bounded by our logic. And so those are just, I can't go past there. The last, another ironing out logic that has to be done is base versus basis. Again, thematics in our last episode, we derived the basis of mathematics. And basis always goes to mathematics, so logical analysis, proofing. All right, bass, B-A-S-S, always goes to vibration physically. Right, if you're at a concert and the bass drops, you're thinking B-A-S-S. So B-A-S-E, again, all I can think of is baseball. And so if you say of a baseball, right, a base, like the base at a baseball game, it's like a bag, right? You'll say the bag, but it's just a square. It's just a point. It's a place. Like what is base? What is that word doing, right? Because then they'll say I googled it and it says if you want to say basis plural, you say bases, which again you're changing the syllability. The pronunciation changes, but that would be it would be spelled B-A-S-E-S, and that's bases B-A-S-E plural. And so we have to figure out what base B-A-S-E is. We have to do something with that. But vibration is very clearly to base B-A-S-S, which is the physical basis. Thematics is the basis of mathematics. Base is the basis of baseball, right? But ball is so there's an amalgamated word. We have base and ball. And so logically, I still have to figure out something with base. But then the last thing I'll finish, I guess, a little physics point. But how does inertia and stability relate? Right? Inertia resists change. But see how it's already defined in the negative. There's, again, our evidence, inertia. It's a word we don't, you're introduced in Newtonian mechanics, but people don't really define it. And, except for Bill Nye the Science Guy. Inertia is a property of matter. Shout out Bill Nye, because it's true, actually. But I guarantee you that phrase is stuck with you if you ever heard it. But what is inertia? Inertia resists change. But now again, we can start to extend from showing you the natural definitions of words exist and spacing, we can just literally just add spaces. And so right, inertiality. Inertiality is not inertiality. What is inertiality? Sensorality is inertial. So now we're connecting our logical axiom to another word that's been used fundamentally in physics, and people just kind of gloss over, like, what's that stuff? Right? Because inertia doesn't classify if it's moving or not moving. It just classifies its resistance to change. But we've already classified resistance. Or described resistance. Or used it in a fundamental physical proof where it has definitive extension. So we're finishing there. Sensorality is inertial. I actually do have more extension here. We'll see if I want to do it now or just leave it there and do another episode. Again, a bunch of breakthroughs, but again, it's all of the steps, which would still be, I mean, again, if I was like live streaming my derivations, this is what I would show you me doing this stuff. But if I'm making an edited video, I cut it down. But again, there's just tons of theorems going on. What is force, blah, blah, blah. And there's jumps and steps in every single one. But sensorality is inertiality, but sensorality is inertial. And so, okay, so we'll finish with this, a little more extension of the logic. So inserality, we'll just start there, is insecurity. Getting these double negatives definitions to start to cancel out. So then inserality is insecurity, so sorality is security. And then security, I connected it to dichotomisticality, which again, that word you've never heard of, but I explained what it is. This is the general state of taking two things to one thing. But insecurity is insoral. But now if we just literally put spaces between insecurity and insorality. And so insecurity is insorality. But physically, right now we had within, right? If you're now break apart the preposition. Within. You're with somebody, you're in somebody. Pause. Whoa, 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 whoa. That's what she said. But literally, right? And so it changes the logic, right? If you have insecurity, you're uncertain. You're not confident. But if you're in security, you might work at a security firm. You're in security. My job is in security. So boom, we've differentiated based on the logics of a preposition. And so, right, anomalistic, dichotomistic. Anomalies are dichotomistic. Or not dichotomistic, but they're monistic. So anomalisticality is monistic, right? An anomaly is one of kind, and monistic means of one. So an anomaly is one. And then we can finally again connect this stuff, extend it to the physical. Again, this isn't ending, this is this episode ending. So it's not like this stuff stops, I just stopped writing new stuff down. But insensity is intensity, right? So we kick the insense, right? You're really mad. It's state of being really mad. You're incensed. Insensitivity, insensitive. Someone's being insensitive to you and you get mad. You're incensed. And that is intense. Intense insensity, right? So when you get mad and you're really mad, you're intense. You're incensed. And so now we've connected that word fundamentally to a principle, again, of tension, tensity, intensity. Physical property we use every single day, intensity. Again, we're getting super close. Well, I should be live streaming this now, but what are you going to do? I got my one little camcorder. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.